We're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days. This is the end of the world. This is the end of the world.
Gosh, no end of technical problems today. Hello and welcome to the Last Days live stream, the show that brings welcome levity to the end of the world, lifting the spirits of many of you battling boredom, loneliness, or anxiety by infecting as many as possible with comfort and distraction as the apocalypse unfolds. Sorry about, well, number one, the glitchiness. What's happening there? Let me try and fix that. And sorry for the lateness as well. And unfortunately, we've lost the stream on Facebook. We did have some technical issues at this end, which I seem to have overcome. But thank you to all of you who've sat around for 15 minutes, in fairness. But thank you for those of you who've been wondering where I am and have stuck it out anyway. Hopefully we'll have a good show for you. Let's just take a few of the comments, shall we? Gosh. So there's 86 of you watching now. We have Italian Vapor present. Good morning. It's not a bad morning for me, Italian Vapor. I am struggling a little bit with my hay fever. So you must forgive me if I'm a little bit sniffly. Don't assume it's you know what. It really is just my body reacting to pollen, thanks to the marvelous way it's been designed. John Scott says hello, my brothers and sisters. Gosh. We have Eric present. We have Rianne present, both of whom are veterans of the lockdown live stream. So welcome. Lip locked no more is apparently in need of caffeine. Aren't we all lip locked? I've had my dose, so hopefully I should be relatively compos mentis. Nov mum, our poor cat has to have a tablet each day for 10 days. I have left that job to my husband. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's in response to Annika P asking, is there any good pet advice? As many of you know, this is first and foremost a show about animals for monetization reasons. It's just incidentally that we talk about adult topics such as current affairs and the end of the world. Okay, so Lip Locked is feeling sultry in Arkansas. Oh dear. Well, we must fix that, Lip Locked. We must raise your spirits somehow. Smee suggests that might be achieved with Arthur singing a lullaby. Well, there are many words I can use to describe Arthur's singing. Perhaps relaxing isn't necessarily one of them, but who knows? He's a very versatile performer, I've noticed. So maybe he can achieve that desired outcome. Scrolling through, gosh. We are all ready to wait on Lloyd. Thank you, Julia. Yeah, I do apologize again for my tardiness. I have a date tomorrow and I don't have to report it to no one. Gosh. Presumably, Cynthia is reveling in the freedom that comes with no longer having to account for oneself with one's love life, which is kind of what you need to do when you're a Jehovah's Witness. Everything needs to be known by everyone. Steve Thu sends greetings from Australia. Just want to say well done on the JWsurvey, Lloyd, and the survey team. Yes. If you go on JWsurvey, you'll notice there's a recent article by our survey editor, Sherry D'Souza, who is sharing the Results from the 2018 survey. What's happening is we have a bit of a backlog, and to work through this backlog, Sherry has first released the 2018 results so that she can focus on the 2019 results, and then we can crack on with getting the 2020 survey launched and promoted. Sorry, my hay fever is really bothering me at this point. I'll say a little prayer. Hayden Honeywood says, the Samuel Hurd Situation Room photo would be ideal for your intro to the live stream. It probably would, although it sort of is included, if you think about it, in the stock video footage that I've got in the intro. There's a very similar situation room showing a missile launching, and that kind of, I think, is evocative of that picture. And also, I'm trying as much as possible to avoid copyright. So in fairness, the backdrop is from a Watchtower publication, but I've changed it quite a lot in order to and it's very clearly being used in a parody context. So anyway, who knows the nuances of copyright law? Let's do our book reading, shall we? 110 of you watching at the moment, and I must just apologize if you're watching after the fact and you would have watched live on Facebook. Unfortunately, because of the delay, the Facebook stream crashed, so I apologize about that. We're down to just the YouTube audience, so my sincere apologies. So we're reading Take Back Your Life, Recovering from Cults and Abusive Relationships by Janja Lalich and Madeline Tobias. Chapter 9 of which is very helpful because it's dealing with coping with emotions post-cult. In our last show, we were talking about guilt and shame. This time, we'll be talking about depression. So here goes. Grief and mourning, specifically when combined with despair, ennui, anxiety, inward anger, and shame, can produce an incapacitating depression. For some time after leaving the group, you may find yourself dealing with deep feelings of depression. Symptoms include sadness, disinterest, feeling lost or directionless, and such physical symptoms as marked changes in appetite, sleep patterns, or personality. When you are no longer part of a group or relationship that filled your life with purpose and direction, even if that purpose and direction had negative effects for you, your sense of loss may be palpable and wrenching. Your awareness of the broken promises and disillusionment, coupled with the challenges and difficulties of creating a new life for yourself, may be overwhelming. The key to dealing with depression and other intense emotions is to express them somehow, sometime, to someone. Keeping a journal is one way to do that. Writing an account of your cult experience is an excellent way to make sense of it. It gets the feelings out of your head and body and onto paper. Use your creativity to express yourself. Write, draw, paint, sculpt, knit, or crochet how you feel. Finding someone to listen to your experiences and feelings can be another vital method of healing. The person you choose must be able to listen to you non-judgmentally and sympathetically, be interested in learning about cults and processes of influence and control, and be objective and supportive of your efforts to heal. One exercise that can be quite useful is to recall what your cult believed or said about leaving. Many former members remember their leaders telling the group that those who leave would become emotionally ill or even die. Did your group attempt to keep you under its control with threats of insanity or death? Well, let me see. Mentally diseased, corrupted in mind. Yeah, kind of. By taking a look at your group's beliefs about emotions or emotional difficulties, you may find a way to diffuse any hold those beliefs still have over you. Hannah Whitfield spent approximately 20 years in an extremely controlling group serving at leadership levels. These activities are ones that helped her get through her bouts of depression after she left the group. And then there's a bullet point list. I put my attention on things I had to deal with every day. I frequently told myself that the depression too would pass, as the cult experience had passed. That helped. Doing physical tasks helped take my mind off the depression. Scrubbing the floor, cleaning and waxing the car, whether or not it needed it, doing some hard digging in the yard, taking a rather physical walk, or jogging, and so on. I kept a daily list of actions to accomplish that I felt would better my life, my living situation, my salary, and so on, no matter how small they were. Things like seeing the landlady at an apartment house, buying a newspaper to look for part-time jobs, making a certain phone call, filing my nails, washing some clothes. I did this religiously and gave myself a pat on the back every single time something got done. This definitely gave me a sense of real accomplishment. Each evening, I would prepare a list for the following day. I encouraged trusting myself. I did this consciously. Every day, I would look at what I had accomplished that day and give myself strokes for it. I would tell myself that I could handle things, that I was getting ahead, even if slowly, and that I was in control. Hannah added these following insights. Know that the depression will not last forever. Underlying the depression are feelings of anger, sorrow, hurt, and betrayal. It's all right to start experiencing those feelings and to let them surface. It helps to write down whatever is surfacing to let it come out. It's all right to feel sorrow, hate, indecision, revenge, or even to feel like killing someone in the group. Gosh. Author's note, if you begin to have strongly vengeful feelings and obsessively think or fantasize about violent acts of revenge, see a mental health professional right away. Go to a walk-in clinic or call 911 or a suicide prevention hotline and ask for help. Yeah, gosh, that needed a disclaimer. It isn't negative or bad to need therapy, help, or counseling. Often a therapist is best qualified to assist you in allowing, understanding, and processing your feelings. Look for and find information that will help you understand your cult experience, whether through books, an exit counselor, or a licensed therapist. Remember, depression, particularly when accompanied by suicidal thoughts and destructive or self-destructive behaviors, may require the care of a mental health practitioner. Depression is treatable. Many former members have been helped by therapy and occasionally with antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication prescribed by a doctor. Later chapters written specifically for therapists address these issues in greater detail. Well, how pertinent that was to the experience of leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. Obviously, again, I realize not everyone watching will be a former Jehovah's Witness, but let me tell you, lots of that applies to those leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's bring in Sasha, who's been waiting patiently in the green. How are you?
I'm well. I'm doing better than you, you poor guy, sniffling away.
Yes, I know.
I've got a tissue if you need one. So.
I am struggling. Yeah, I'm struggling with my hay fever today, but hopefully we will get through the show by hook or by crook. So what were your thoughts on what we've just been reading?
What an amazing section. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. I particularly picked up where you spoke about how groups will often threaten us with disaster in life if we end up leaving. And it's not just us as Jehovah's Witnesses. We've met somebody who came from an exclusive brethren background who had the same threats passed on to her when she left the organization, so much so to the point that they said that some of her children who had some health difficulties when they were born and in their early years, they directly said that's as a result of leaving God and leaving the organization. So if that doesn't spell cult, nothing does. It's just, and she grappled with that for years, feeling guilty that she'd somehow inflicted this upon her children, because that's the narrative that the cult had given her. It's tragic.
And to some extent, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Because they're pointing to former members and saying, oh, former members are mentally diseased, former members are corrupted in mind, their minds are poisoned, etc., etc. And of course, you know, leaving a high control group, often you can't do that without there being some remedial damage. So they're kind of pointing to the thing that they're doing to people, in other words, damaging people emotionally and psychologically, and using that to warn people against leaving. It's it's very corrosive.
I think that's why it's so healthy that you have a book such as that one that helps people to just reframe that narrative and just see that they are not at fault. They have nothing to be worried about. So yeah, it's really healthy just to look outside of that bubble, look outside of that little echo chamber that they were raised in or that they were victim to.
Arthur is complaining that I...
Uh-oh, we've frozen. Hello, Lloyd. We've lost you. Well, viewers, if you could still hear me, I'm sorry. We seem to have lost Lloyd. Bear with us. We will fix this. Lloyd, we lost you. Okay, it looks like we did lose Lloyd, so you'll all have to stick with me for a few moments here. Hopefully Lloyd will be back soon. And I believe we've got Arthur in the green room as well, waiting to join us. And I think we have a couple of others there as well. But yeah, that point that Lloyd was talking about, we got you again?
Yeah, okay. Wow, how fantastic. So you've been hosting the show while I've had a power cut, as you can probably see, the lights are down.
Oh dear.
So what I've managed to do is just set up a hotspot on my phone. But what this means, of course, is that I'm relying... now the power's back on. Okay, so I was about to say... I was about to say what that means is that I'm then reliant on how much battery I have on the MacBook, and the MacBook battery isn't that great. But thankfully, I don't have to worry about that because the power's back on now. And thank you for taking over. If you have a point that you want to finish, by all means finish it, and I'll try and bring Arthur on.
Well, no, it was just carrying on with that discussion that we had there about having to reframe our life and take back control of it. And I think that book is just absolutely brilliant, and I recommend everybody to get it and read it, because we're not alone with that. In fact, I've been doing a lot of research recently into basically, I guess, the Mormon version of JW Facts, which is an amazing book written by somebody who left Mormonism. And it was the same thing. He was basically just forced to look at his religion and reframe his worldview and recognize that he had nothing to be ashamed of by asking the relevant questions of his organization. He quoted one of the first presidency leaders, which said, "If we have the truth, no harm can come from investigation. If we have not the truth, well, it ought to be harm." So yeah, it's just interesting to see we weren't alone with having to question our beliefs. So.
Indeed. And welcome, Arthur.
Hey, Lloyd.
I don't know what happened on WhatsApp, because it had the tick to show that I'd sent it, but you couldn't see the link.
But
so
how many ticks were there? Only one or two?
At least one. Well, so that if there's at least one, then that means I've done my part, just WhatsApp hasn't delivered it.
Yes. And if it's not blue, then I didn't see it. So good morning, everyone. I'm a bit sleepy. That's all. Didn't even get the chance to properly wake up. Anyway, here we are, all of us.
But at least
in the
you're
last
clothed.
days.
You're clothed, and you're not in your smoking jacket. In the past, you've come on in your dressing gown, and it's all been a little bit risque. But this time, you're nicely clad. So,
but have you
thank
got
for
on
that.
the complete suit of armor as your clothing?
Yes.
Arthur? Do you have the
Yes.
breastplate of righteousness and the? Sorry
And-
for triggering.
And let's not forget, for if there is someone who's manually reviewing the YouTube video for monetization purposes, we have Fetitza.
Hey.
Okay, so yeah, if you are watching this and you're reviewing from YouTube, as you'll see, this is not a video about current affairs or adult topics. This is actually a cute cat video. Arthur, what can you tell us about this particular cat?
This is Fetitza, little girl. She is, I guess, 17 or 18 years old. So really very old. She was
I didn't know
one of
cats
our...
could live that long.
Yes, my aunt's cat was lived until 20 years of age.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
She's
she's
beautiful.
she's part of our family, just like Ding and our other cat, Kiki.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Nice to meet her.
And is your dog alive today? Or is
Yes,
it
of
still...
course. But he's not in my room.
Okay. Lee Grader says, good job in taking over Sasha. Yeah, Sasha did a fantastic job there. It was all very worrying at this time because everything just went black. But it's nice to know that the show
I didn't
goes
even
on.
know if I was still going either. So my apologies to everyone for those
But
few
the
moments.
viewers were commenting in the live chat that Sasha, you are alive, and we want you to host us. We want you to lead us into prayer, into praising the Lord. And
Unfortunately, we've lost Arthur's audio just as he was getting extremely triggering.
I asked you to open with prayer, Lord. So yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sliplock No More, for your very kind super chat. That's very generous of you. Thank you. Sliplock No More is, of course, a patron as well, so that's wonderful.
And can we give her a shout out too for the excellent contributions she has on the Discord channel that you've got as well?
Yes, very, very much a part of the Discord family, the Patreon Discord. TV Tube Me says, I've managed to be awake in this region to catch John Cedars live. Time for a nip. A nip? What's a nip?
Is that like
As in
a
catnip?
liquid nip or?
Oh, okay, maybe that's what it is. Okay, so I think it's about time we had a segment. So let's go to some sophistication and some culture. Let's go to Sasha's poetry.
Count joyfully. Oh, sorry, wrong book. My apologies. Time for some inspiration there.
You have properly tickled Arthur there. He found that hilarious. Look at him.
It doesn't take much to humour our dear friend Arthur. All right. Well, this one I promise in advance will not upset anybody because it has no political comments in it. So I will just say that. Okay. This is more of a reflection on what we've been going through this year. 2020. What a year it's been. Think of all we've been through. Think of all we've seen. Fires and floods and viruses causing devastation that's kept us ailing. Issues increase, even political strife with leadership are failing. Social isolation, civil unrest and violence aplenty. Even a shortage of toilet paper. Yep, that's 2020. But hold on, wait up. What's the actual month or date now? The year's not even halfway through, so we've got to endure somehow because life keeps on unfolding. Events keep on occurring. The world keeps on spinning as humanity keeps concurring to progress and grow and work together, knowing this life is what we possess. Our very existence is valuable, so we know we need to progress. So we know we won't just throw our hands up. We won't simply give out. We will decide it's not too hard. Yes, we'll use our collective clout to recognize that throughout time, things have ebbed and they have flowed. Periods have been disastrous, but we've worked to save our planetary abode. Yes, through time, humanity has faced upheavals, many of them dire, yet collectively we've made advances and we've seen what is required. We've progressed in countless ways that generations past would never have predicted. We've corrected issues and addressed problems that once had us restricted. Advances we've made in diverse fields like medicine and health. We recognize that quality of life is based on more than building wealth. And we know we can't rely on fairy tales of magic, prayers, or gods. No, it's up to us alone to make a success of life, to overcome the odds. To work together as a planet, to better our collective condition. We have the skills, we have the drive, and we have the mental cognition. So don't fret or think that the news is just far too depressing. Be convinced that every step we take is one more closer to addressing, to rectifying and improving the state of life for all humanity. This will be achieved with science and intellect, not fundamentalist Christianity. Sure, generations will look back on this year as one that had us tested, yet despite the roller coaster ride, humanity was not bested. The history books will see that we worked unitedly to resolve. We came together to rectify problems. Yes, we bettered, we evolved. So don't despair too much as we muddle through the rest of this year. Be assured that life will keep improving on this beautiful earthly sphere.
That was beautiful. Thank you very much, Sasha.
Thank you. A bit
nice
long,
rhyming.
Lovely.
No,
poetry.
that was fine. The length was perfect because it allowed me to do some back office production things while I was listening to this beautiful flow of language. What were your thoughts on the poem there, Arthur? I noticed you were very engaged, particularly in the opening part with the Bible.
Yes, so that scene with the Bible was absolutely triggering, not for me, but for our viewers who expect in the last day's live stream to receive some spiritual encouragement.
Well, we could do that.
I had my finger poised over the mute button, but it was nice and short there.
Speaking of scriptures, though, I had a scripture I wanted to share with you last week, Lloyd. You know, given the fact that you'd gone through a little bit of a health crisis, I was going to point out something to you about how you should take care of your eye. But then I sort of stumbled on Matthew chapter 7, verse 3, and it said, "Why then do you look at the straw in your brother's eye, but don't notice the rafter in your own eye?" So I can't give you any tips on how to protect your eyes, I'm afraid. I've done it myself. But there's my scripture for the day.
Always wear PPE, people. You really do not want tiny, tiny, tiny shards of metal in your eye. Even if it doesn't hurt when it happens or it's just uncomfortable, you can get blinded by it. And having it removed is, shall we say, it's actually not so much painful, it's more alarming because someone's actually dangling a needle right in your eye like that, and you're having to resist every single impulse not to recoil from it, you know, because if someone puts a sharp object towards your eye, it's instinctive to recoil, you know, but you've got to kind of, it's very unpleasant. But wear PPE is the take-home message. It's much better, thank you. I did go through a spell where it was starting to feel uncomfortable again, but Deanna then started with the drops and everything, so it's more or less fine, I think, now.
It's bearable.
So yes, it is tolerable. Thank you to Rianne for the super chats. That's very kind indeed. And Arliss Scott, appreciating your poetry there. Gavin Mock says, "Love the theatrical trickery, a masterstroke." Sasha. Tina Martinez says, "Great work, Sasha. Loved it." So before Sasha's head explodes, viewers, I think what we need to do is move on to our next segment, which involves music.
Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome to Sing Along with Arthur. Today we will be talking about one of Jehovah's primary qualities and about a certain feeling that we all express in the Christian congregation. Can you think what this is?
Are you waiting for us to answer?
These intros are getting longer and more elaborate, aren't they? It's quite astonishing. I think he just wants to give talks, doesn't he?
I think so. He's got the tie on.
Yeah. Arthur, this is not the segment. The segment is Sing Along with Arthur, not
Yes.
the whole meeting with Arthur.
So
He seems very ponderous today.
It does.
yeah, but really, are we which are we talking about?
No, we're waiting for you.
I'm
we're hanging on.
expecting an answer from you guys.
Yes. Well.
Over to you, Sasha.
Give us the question again.
So, which quality are we talking about? One of Jehovah's primary qualities.
Well, could be one of the four, right? Love, justice, wisdom,
Cynthia
and
Luna
power.
says, "Sing only." Is that the quality?
Would it be love, Arthur?
Yes, exactly.
Well, there we are. All right. Primary quality of love. Sing it for us, Arthur.
All right.
I mean, anytime. We hear you, Italian Vapor. We
Let's
hear you.
see. Do we have audio?
Not yet.
No.
Oh,
Oh, sheesh.
this is going to be a karaoke version. Sorry, a cappella version, is it?
No.
We've said it before. We've said it again. We're nothing but professional.
Does it
all
work?
of this is planned, of course.
Yeah.
All right,
No,
sorry,
nothing.
hang on.
Oh,
There we
shit.
are. Now
we
we're
are.
good.
Okay, then let me restart. Because I didn't.
Back up.
Okay, once. Sure. L is for the best life that there is. O as for the oneness in just spirit. V is very, very uber spiritually. E is even more than false religion ever offers. Love is more than just this sympathy. Love is God's primary quality. Love is our choice, it makes our hearts always rejoice. Jehovah loves both me and you.
Oh, trumpet. That's a trumpet ever.
Let's sing it, brothers and sisters.
Lots of new air instruments in this one.
L as for the best life that there is. O as for the oneness and just spirit. V is very, very uber spiritually. E is even more than false religion ever offers. Love is more than just his sympathy. Love is God's primary quality. Love is our choice and makes our hearts always rejoice. Well, Jehovah loves both me and you. Jehovah loves both me and you. Jehovah loves both me and you. And everybody, amen.
Wow. Wow. What can we say about that, Lloyd?
Well, that was it could be argued music, and there was certainly a singing element, and it was very boisterous and very lyrical.
There were words.
And
there were the best words.
there were words. There were notes. There were chords. There was air instruments of the brass kind, and lots of new ground being broken. It could be argued in today's Sing Along with Arthur, because we haven't had any air trumpets or slide trombones before.
Yeah. I think you might be on the theme too, Arthur. So if you're going to go through the 4 primary qualities, and you've started with love, I challenge you next song to come up with a song about justice, power, or wisdom.
When are we going to get our first air glockenspiel or air harp, or what new air instruments can we try?
Air synthesizer. Sorry, squeeze box, whatever we want to call them.
Gosh.
Well,
That was lovely.
Well done,
and
mate.
yeah, lots of comments coming through. Arliss Scott saying bravo. Italian Vapor saying nice, Arthur, but not quite Bobby Darin. Steen One says, can we now have an undressed rehearsal? Gosh, it's not really that kind of live stream, to be honest. So yeah, lots of reaction.
Love it.
The question I now have is, do we want to try a last day's quiz?
Oh, I heard about this quiz the other day.
Uh-huh.
Are we up to the challenge?
Yeah, we're up.
Because I was initially thinking of doing it just on Saturdays, but I figure why not also do it on Wednesdays? And I have prepared some questions. Obviously, we don't have Team O'Donnell, but I thought we could have just Team D'Souza instead, couldn't we?
Yep, as he opens Google right now to get in preparation.
Well, I've thought about that. I've thought about that. And what will happen is, as the person who's answering the question has to have their hands visible. Yeah. So that it's proven that there's no typing going on.
All right. Siri, answer the following.
I have actually put the call out on Patreon for some contestants, but no one's answered the call yet. So if you happen to be a patron watching, go to the auditorium section of the Discord server and you'll see a link if you want to join. What we'll do is we'll do the intro, and if there's no one joining by the time we actually get underway, we'll just proceed with Sasha versus Arthur for the last day's quiz. So we'll see how things get on.
As one brother put it, stay alive to 75.
That's one of your best intros ever.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to the last day's quiz, the ultimate battle of minds, as 2 teams of today's panelists face off against each other to prove their knowledge of this show and Jehovah's Witness Doomsday Dogma. So, in our last episode, we had Arthur's Knights versus Team O'Donnell. In today's show, we have Arthur's Knights versus Team D'Souza. There are usually 4 rounds, but when Arthur is on his own, we must do 3 rounds instead, because one of those rounds involves knowing the lyrics in English to the Sing Praises to Jehovah songbook. And since Arthur actually isn't technically an ex-JW, he doesn't know those words. So we'll instead do the 3 rounds. Round 1 being they wouldn't write that. Round 2 being out of context. And then the final round, apocalypse delayed. They wouldn't write that is one question each, worth 5 points. You have to, out of 3 quotes, you have to detect which one I have made up.
Okay.
In the second round, out of context, that's 2 questions each, both worth 2 points. You have to tell me which live stream panelist said certain words in our previous episode. And Apocalypse Delayed is 2 questions each, 10 points for each correct answer. You have to tell me out of a choice of 3 options in which year a statement about Armageddon was printed in the publication. So those are the 3 sections. We don't have any extra contestants, despite the call going out on Discord. Never mind. Let's launch forth.
What's our buzzer?
So it's not a buzzer.
Okay.
So you're not pitted against each other for each question. You have your own question to answer.
Okay.
I think on one of the rounds, I think on the let's see, on the Songs of Doom round, an answer can be forfeited to the next team, but not for the other rounds.
Okay.
So, we need to do a coin toss. So who has a coin?
Haven't used those things in years. Coins?
Arthur, do you have a coin?
I've got a magical one here. Yeah, just I'll tell you whether it's heads or tails.
Do you have a coin, Arthur?
Nope.
I have a coin. Okay, so who wants? What do you want, Sasha? Heads or tails?
Tails.
Okay. And it's Arthur going first.
Right.
All right, Arthur. Australia versus Romania.
Arthur's Knights, you're up first. Arthur, which of these 3 quotes have I made up? Quote number 1. Our thought is that 1925 is definitely settled by the scriptures. As to Noah, the Christian now has much more upon which to base his faith than Noah had upon which to base his faith in a coming deluge. Quote 2. Do we not give thanks to Jehovah for the destruction he will soon bring against all who fail to heed the warnings of his faithful slave class? Quote 3. Some chess players have recognized the harm that can result from playing the game. Which of those was fake?
2.
Correct. Arthur, you have won yourself 5 points.
Thank you.
And now we move on to Sasha.
Okay.
So, Sasha, which of these 3 quotes is fake? Quote 1. Satan is a cunning and resourceful deceiver. Through college lecturers and university professors, he poisons the minds of unsuspecting students with worldly thinking. Quote 2. Do not conclude that there are different roads or ways that you can follow to gain life in God's new system. There is only one. There was just one ark that survived the flood, not a number of boats. Quote 3. You will have secured the services of the best decorators you can find. Some of them used to be undertakers, but since there are no more people dying, they have had to seek some new occupation. Which of those 3 quotes was fake?
Okay. The third one is true, so that's toss up between the first and the second. The first sounds like something I think they would love to write, but I don't think they would dare specific. I'm going to go 1. The first one is fake.
Wow. And so that's correct. So both Team D'Souza and Arthur's Knights level on points after the first round. So it's a real battle of minds in this show.
It's got to be said that
we
you
move
should
on.
write for the Watchtower in a week, because that's something they would love to print.
We move on to Out of Context, which I think, in fairness, Arthur will have a slight advantage in because he was present for at least some of our last show, but we'll press on regardless because it's possible that you could just deduce who said what from how it's said.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go with Arthur first. Who said this? They've got the check. They've literally got the check with his signature.
That was Mark.
Correct. So that's 2 points for Arthur. And next is Sasha. Who said this? The sheet that I saw that my stepdad got was all people from the Northeast.
I would have. I have to pass. I don't know. Stepdad. I'm sorry. I have to pass.
You're not going to get it. In fairness, that was actually Renato joining from the Discord, so it's a little bit unfair that, but it's all based on the coin toss, you know.
And would you believe it was the one episode I didn't catch up on yet?
Indeed. So Arthur, you're up next. Who said this? It's hard to do because he's pretty darn pretty to begin with.
I guess this was Kimmy's line.
Correct. Speaking about her cat.
Wasn't speaking about Mark. Oh.
that was the joke in the show itself. Yeah. And finally, Sasha, who said they seem to have kind of taken the bullet there.
Would that have been Brandon?
Incorrect. It was me.
Oh, okay.
Brandon wasn't actually on our last show. So Arthur leads by 9 points, but he will recognize that there is irony there because he was leading by 9 points at this stage in Saturday's quiz and still lost because Apocalypse Delayed is the great leveler. It's the round in which both questions are worth 10 points, meaning that if you get both right, you get 20 points. And Sasha, you already have 5 points. So it's all to play for as we head into Apocalypse Delayed. We start with Arthur. What we need is some tense music, don't we? Like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music. Okay, so you have to give me the correct year, Arthur, for this quote. And, Sasha, you can help me here. Arthur, you're going to have to keep your hands in plain sight.
Yeah. Sorry.
And Sasha, you are more than entitled to object if Arthur's hands at any point are not in plain sight. Okay?
Okay. Can't see them, Arthur. Up. I want a hallelujah hands. Come on. Raise the hands. That's it.
Let's put him full screen so that it's yeah, okay. And it will be the same thing for you, Sasha. So
okay.
Arthur.
Yes.
In what year was this said or printed in the literature? World events clearly show that we are in the final part of the last days of this system of things. Was it 1974, 2020, or 1995?
2020.
Are you sure about that?
No. No, but
well, fortunately for you, you are correct. So that's 10 points.
So nice diversion.
Yeah, this is what Chris Tarrant used to do on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Exactly, yeah. So I've learned all my tricks from Chris Tarrant, yeah. So, Arthur, you get to also police Sasha's hands on this
Yeah.
one.
My hands have never left my arm at any time.
It's not often that Sasha's hands get policed with such scrutiny.
My Mr. Burns hands. Okay.
Okay, Sasha, in what year was the following quote printed in Watchtower Publications? When Armageddon comes, it will be soon enough, too soon for men who selfishly postpone taking the divine advice and acting. Was this printed in 1934, 1953, or 1986?
30s. 34.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer. Lock it in, Lloyd. Lock it in. Yep. I will go.
I would rather have locked in 1953, which was the correct answer. 1953, December 15th was when those words were penned.
Page 700 and something.
Oh, well, there goes Arthur checking it all. Good grief.
Wow. Wow, that sounded like something that was a lot earlier. Wow. There you go.
Actually,
They will
as
know
things
what
stand,
they were asking for when they tauntingly asked us witnesses where this universal war was with its demonstration of God's power and greatness. Jehovah knows what.
unfortunately, we've lost Arthur's audio just as he was launching into a very triggering tirade, but there we go. So what this actually means, of course, is that Arthur's knights have won because Arthur has amassed 19 points, whereas you're still on 5 points, Sasha, with one question still to go. But shall we finish the quiz anyway?
Yeah.
Just to find out how many points you would have won.
Okay.
Okay, so it's down to Arthur's turn now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bear with me one moment. I need to find my place. And let's put Arthur full screen so that Sasha can police his hands. Arthur, in what year was the following quote printed in Watchtower Publications? The world is rapidly approaching what the Bible calls Harmageddon or Armageddon. Was this printed in 2011, 1937, or 1995?
1995.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
What's your reasoning behind that?
Because I recall this quote.
Arthur, your memory is accurate. It was in the 1995 knowledge book. So
Well done.
it's an impressive tally of points in today's quiz. Let's just find out how many points Sasha would have finished with or will finish with. And let's put him full screen so that Arthur can police those lovely, supple hands. Sasha, in what year was the following printed in Watchtower Publications? Now, in the final part of the last days, God's servants are on the threshold of a righteous new world. Was it 1987, 1969, or 2015?
'69. 69, in harmony with the whole 1975 time.
Are you absolutely certain about that, Sasha?
Well, I was until you asked me that. So I lock it in. Lock it in. I'm going with my first gut feeling. 69. Must be.
It's a shame because the correct answer was 2015. Specifically, January 15th, 2015. So, but I think the interesting thing, and commiserations, by the way, for losing there, Sasha. Congratulations to Arthur's Knights for a very impressive victory in which
Yep.
29 points were amassed.
I stand in awe.
Bear in mind,
Well
in our last quiz, Team O'Donnell won by 20 points. So this is actually the highest points tally in the history, the albeit brief history of the last day's quiz. However, the sad news for Sasha, to compound his defeat, is that there is a penalty. There is actually a prize that the winning team gets, and the prize, Arthur's prize, is to decide which of 3 penalties Sasha must humiliate himself with.
Be kind. Be kind.
Arthur gets to choose from either 1, Sasha wearing a head covering for the rest of the show, 2, Sasha reading Jeremiah 5 verses 7 and 8 from the previous version of the New World Translation, or Sasha singing the postlude from Song 62 from Sing Praises to Jehovah. So which of those would you like Sasha to do, Arthur?
I would really enjoy hearing Sasha's impression on the scripture in Jeremiah.
Oh, Jeremiah. Okay, good choice. So
All right.
you need to find an old New World Translation, Sasha, not the new one. The new one doesn't count. And,
The by 12.
and read Jeremiah 5, 7, and 8.
And there we
Interesting
lost.
that-
We lost Sasha.
I think Sasha's actually running down the street at this point in sheer terror
On the quest
at the
to
prospect of
1984.
reliving one of his most traumatic experiences, or more traumatic experiences, as a Jehovah's Witness. Oh, he's back.
Okay. Dear, sorry to make you all wait.
Did you ever have to read this verse as a JW, Sasha,
I've got
on the
an
platform?
awful feeling I know which one it is. And if so... Well, of course, this is the inerrant word of God, so, let's treat this with the dignity that it deserves.
This is wisdom. This is divine wisdom.
Divine wisdom.
Yes. Let me set the scene. So, brothers, sisters, I'd like you to open your Bibles to Jeremiah chapter 5, verses 7 and 8. And let's see what it is that the prophet Jeremiah was inspired to write. And let's see what meaning it has for us today, shall we? How can I forgive you for this very thing? Your own sons have left me, and they keep swearing by what is no God. And I keep satisfying them, but they continued committing adultery. And to the house of a prostitute woman they would go in troops. Horses, seized with sexual heat, having strong testicles they have become. They neigh each other, each one to the wife of his companion. So, brothers and sisters, what can we take from that?
It never gets old. It never gets old.
Have they changed that in the new one, have they?
Yes.
Did you
they
ever
say-
have to... Yeah, they've softened it in the new one.
Yeah, the new one reads like this. How can I forgive you for this? Your sons have abandoned me, and they swear by is no God. I satisfied their needs, but they kept committing adultery. And they flocked to the house of a prostitute. They are like eager, lustful horses, each neighing after another one man's wife. So
Wow.
it doesn't
surely
speak about. I mean, the horses don't have balls anymore.
No.
But surely
no, that's
surely the gonads came from somewhere. So if it talks about testicles in the actual verse, is it not taking huge liberties with the text to no longer mention the testicles?
And what does that say about them not changing the inerrant word of God, the infallible word of God that was written down for a specific reason? If God inspired those particular words about horses' testicles, well, who are we to change them? But obviously, they know best.
Obviously, I can give a scholarly explanation for this.
Please do, Brother Arthur.
When you are looking into into the Morris Dictionary of Hebraic idioms and terms, you can see that the reference to testicles is actually an idiom. It's a wordplay for lustfulness, for lewdness, for brazen conduct, and those balls that the horses have is
Testicles,
actually,
Arthur. Testicles.
yeah, nuts.
I'm going to have a rich choice of quotes for the next live last day's quiz, aren't I?
Yeah.
Testicles. Who said that?
Well, at least you didn't
So,
ask us to read the Song of Solomon excerpts, because they can be awkward too.
No, those are the three. Those are set in stone penalties, I'm afraid, for each and every quiz. Eric Larson saying this is inspired scripture. Miss Moneypenny saying, I'm trying not to wake up my husband. I'm laughing so hard. Michael is triggered, apparently. Miss Moneypenny finding things very funny, as is Lip Block No More.
Rian, thanks for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat, Rian. Very kind. Madjock2112 says, I remember being about 6 years old and having to read the passage that mentioned the town of Shittim. I was terrified that I would be told off for swearing. Yes, there's all sorts in there.
Did any of you ever have brothers reading the paragraphs or reading scriptures and mispronouncing words such as having to prostate themselves before God instead of prostrate?
Oh gosh.
Or of course, the fleshly orgasm. That was the other one that was always misread by somebody doing the Watchtower reading or the Bible reading.
Steen 1 is apparently quite partial to horse testicles.
Yeah, it's part of biology. It's
exactly. Where would we be without them? Without horse testicles, there would be no horses. Lip Block No More says nay nay. Miss Moneypenny still apparently in hysterics. Okay, so yeah,
that has to be one of the first times I've picked up a Bible since leaving, and I got to say I actually couldn't remember where Jeremiah was for a few moments until quickly checking. So I'm not sure if that's a good
thing.
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing. Michael says, "I thought this was a family show, huh?" Hey, look, it's just the facts of life. It's the birds and the bees, unfortunately.
Michael, it's God's
indeed.
word.
Yeah, exactly. We're just reading. Doesn't this highlight, though? I mean, it highlights in a way that, not everything in the Bible is necessarily quote unquote age appropriate. But I also find that last apocalypse delayed part of the quiz very telling, because almost every quote that I'm reading could have been printed in any year across multiple decades. Yes, because they've been fear-mongering for that long using the exact same language.
Yes, wasn't there an example of that in one of the broadcastings a few years back? We saw that where there was there was a reprint in one of the recent Watchtowers that was basically something from the 30s, and there was just a few words changed, but they basically reprinted the whole article. Yeah. So yeah, it's just cut and paste and tie in a few modern references, and that's about it.
And let's not forget the Learn from the Great Teacher book, chapter 10, where children as young as preschool are taught about those certain parts of the body. So so a Kingdom Hall meeting is a family show, actually.
Yeah, and we've all spoken about this many times. We've known family members who, while they were waking up, or even when they were still active witnesses, we've known people who would edit the material for their children, who would tear out pages from the Bible story book if it was not deemed appropriate for their particular children, or would listen ahead to the convention program and remove their children from the auditorium for certain sections. So yeah, and you did a great video on that.
In fact, there was a similar thing raised, wasn't there, in the very last JW broadcasting episode, where parents were writing in apparently to the organization saying what on earth's going on with these dramas where you have people chasing after other people to kill them. And you also have a scene in the Josiah drama where a king gets assassinated. You don't see the actual act of violence, but you see people, going to kill the king, and the king's clearly dead. And so Stephen Lett's having to field questions from. I'd love to know what letters were being sent in and what was going through the minds of the parents when they're essentially questioning the faithful slave on an issue,
Yeah, that's a good point. And we know that the society doesn't jump on something unless there's sufficient numbers of inquiries on a particular topic. Like we were told many times that the outline that the circuit overseers would bring to consider with the bodies of elders and ministerial servants would have points that were so common or so relevant that it made it into an outline. So the same with the broadcasting. They must have had a sufficient quantity of letters come through from families around the world, from parents around the world, to even warrant it. Otherwise, they should never have even brought this to the attention of those watching the broadcast. So there must have been, I would have to hazard a guess, dozens, maybe hundreds of letters or inquiries along this line that the governing body received.
Yeah, fascinating to consider that. I mean, that they're questioning the faithful slave in this area enough to actually write in to Bethel. Why are they only questioning the faithful slave there? Why not in other areas? Maybe they are questioning the faithful slave in other areas, but they're not feeling confident enough to raise those concerns,
Yeah, maybe the trust that these parents have in the governing body, knowing what is best for their children, is waning, because parents know what's best for their kids, not a bunch of 8 men or 7 of whom have never had children.
Indeed. So I think we're going to, due to my, if you don't mind, gentlemen, with my hay fever the way it is, I think I'm going to kind of draw things to an early conclusion. I did just want to remind viewers that if you want us to consider your voicemail on the show, there is a URL for you to check out, speakpipe.com/Cedars. We are also receiving or able to receive unlisted YouTube videos if you want to send a video introduction or a video question. And it's probably worth, Sasha, posting the support address. Why do we have this email address, and what can people use it for?
Yeah, thank you. So we get a lot of emails come through, support@jwsurvey.org, people who are reaching out looking for some support. Maybe they're grappling with waking up or realizing that they're stuck in the religion and that it's not true, or they're not sure where to go, what to do. We have quite a bit of an accumulation of resources. We can point you to support networks we can put you in touch with. We're not therapists, we're not trained, but we're peer support. So we're just here to hear. Maybe you just need to vent or bounce your story off. Now, we can't get to every single email. As you've mentioned, Lloyd, sometimes there's just a volume of emails we can't get to, but we do read every email, and as much as possible we reply. And it doesn't just have to be, venting about a situation. You might just know of some information, some things that are happening in the organization. There's a nice email I'll share next time we do a live stream from somebody who's giving us some behind the scenes information about things that are taking place in congregations at the moment. So we appreciate all of that. And feel free to reach out and give us a bit of time. We can't get to every email immediately, but we will respond as appropriate. And we're here for you. We hear you, and we're here for you.
Wonderful. Do you have anything to add, Arthur, before we leave?
Thank you for watching. We wait you live on Saturday for our next episode, our next installment of the Last Days live stream from World Headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses and the proximity of CSAC. This is the JWsurvey team.
Arthur, what do you think your chances are of back-to-back wins on the Saturday show?
Well, let's see.
Well, let's see. Indeed. So viewers, I hope you've enjoyed today's show. Please do remember to stay positive and stay well, stay healthy, and we will see you in the next show. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.